Hi, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm on the land of the Williakali people in a so-called Far West New South Wales, and I would like to pay respects to Williakali people and First Nations people everywhere. I honor and respect First Nation communities. I acknowledge the suffering, the struggles, the resilience, and the power and connection to country and land around all lands. May our work together contribute to justice, peace, and liberation.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I am in Gadigal and Bidjigal country, and I acknowledge their elders past and present and their continuing cultures. So here we are in yet another Pearl Pentacle conversation for this book that I now actually have. For several of these conversations, I haven't had the actual book, but here it is. It's out. It's out now. You can order it. You can go into bookstores. You can ask them to get it into your library. You can borrow it from your friend if they're done. I doubt they're done. But yeah, it's out now. You can touch it. It's real in this middle world. And so, Suzanne, we asked them to write an essay on their life around, personal freedom and liberation, discovery of self in the world, and connection to everything. And the reason that Jane Meredith and I thought of you, Suzanne, for this is because we both felt and experienced you as a very labyrinthine being who has walked many lives, all kinds of lives. Every time I talk to you, I've known you for 11 years now. Every time I talk to you, I discover another thing you did or another piece of yourself. You've done a lot of things and you've lived a lot of lives. And your essay is kind of really distills pieces of that and offers this provocation of am I free, which is what the essay is entitled. So like, I know that, you currently live in a place that you wanted to live all your life. I'm curious about your life of travel and moving and all of the ways in which you live your life kind of by the unfolding journey.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I've lived a lot of lives, I feel, and had a lot of experiences in this life. And I'm also really curious about that. How did that happen? Why did that happen? And and I've traveled a lot and I've moved a lot. I get bored quickly with things in life. And at one point I used to think, oh, I was trying to run away. I'm running away from myself. But my feeling like now is that I'm running towards myself. Like I'm constantly uncovering myself, all of me, coming back to what I knew in the past. How does that now sit now? Constantly uncovering what it is to be who I am, and it's a mysterious and exciting adventure.
Yeah. I love that because that's true of my experience of you is that often my when I'm with you and we're talking about the fact because I'm kind of similar, and I'm just younger. So I sometimes look at you and I think, oh, I can see myself and my future in Suzanne a little bit. Because I live a life in that, sometimes I go, oh yeah, and then this is happening in my life and this. And a lot of the things that are happening in my life are very unconventional and not considered to be the average fare of what's going on in someone's life. And so that's also true for you, like so many ways. Like you lived a lot the life of a lesbian separatist in Adelaide for many years. You lived on a commune, I think, in another state. You've been in parts of Africa that, where the world where like the Western consumerist capitalist colonialist world where a lot of the impacts of that you can see in raw, horrifying detail. And you have children who are adults who have children, and the way in which all of this folds in for you is so profound. And and also for me, so like, so that's what I mean by reflecting into your journey, your labyrinthine journey. And you're a labyrinth facilitator. So I often think of labyrinths and you. I guess my next question for you is with the labyrinth, like, how has that helped you navigate and move through periods of vagueness or disorientation?
How, oh, the labyrinth has taught me so much, like so much about that. Because often, when we're walking in the labyrinth, we get into a point where we're confused. And even if I've walked that same labyrinth 100 times, I can one day I'll get into this point and think, am I in the right path? Have I lost my plot? Have I am I closer to the center? Where am I going? Like those things come into my mind, even though I draw labyrinths, walk labyrinths all the time. I'm never surprised now when I that happens to me in that process. And I guess that then reflects back on my life. I'm often in that space like, what am I doing? Where am I now? Am I moving towards the center or the way or to myself or away from myself? So it gives me a structure, a form. I'm a Virgo. I've got all this Virgo earthy energy. So it's wonderful to have a form that I can relate
Yeah.
to. And I have my own little labyrinth in my garden, and I love to just go and walk it. And it's what I love about it for all the time is that labyrinth is that every time it's different.
Yeah.
Sometimes really fast, sometimes it takes a really long time to get in and out. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
I love. Yeah.
Yeah, you've definitely inspired my love of labyrinths as well. You're someone I think of as being a very like so sometimes when I think of reclaiming witchcraft and I think of all of the legs or threads or pillars of it, really intensive magical practice, really profound self-inquiry, provocative political action. Like you really, to me, embody all of that together. And so, often you have been involved in both like microcosmic and greater social shifts. Especially around your self-inquiry into your whiteness, into your gender, into being a parent of children whose ethnicity is completely different to yours. And like how I'm curious, like how you have remained I know we all struggle with like arrogance, ignorance, confusion, blind spots, and you're so good at being honest about that. And in this essay, you're honest about that.
Mm.
And I wish more people could just be honest about it and move through it, so that we can commit to acts of liberation. So I'm
Mm.
curious, what are the things, what helps you when you're wrestling with your internalized whiteness or the gender constructs that patriarchy has
Mm.
given you? Like, what helps
Mm.
you move through that and come to willingness? Yeah, come to
What?
willingness.
Yeah. So one of the things that I mean, like that's so weird when you describe me like that. Like I just feel like just an ordinary little ant of a human
Yeah.
doing the best they can.
And you're also extraordinary, both at the same time.
I always sing that song. I'm just a fool whose intentions are good.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't let me be misunderstood. Like that's my song.
Yeah.
But how do I move? I guess one of the things that really helped me and anchored me into that process was my meditation practice, and working. Like I call myself a Buddhist witch. Like I really it was invaluable to have that practice and understanding when I was in a particular point in my life where there was some incredibly challenging upheaval. And as you mentioned, I ended up with the care of two children that I hadn't birthed who were from a whole different world. And it was horrendous. It was scary and it was confronting. Um, but I, you know, I just continue 1 foot, next breath, come back to the center, open, terrified, scared, vulnerable, and just hope that I don't mess up or hurt anybody. And I know I have.
Yeah, me
And
too.
and then come back to it, like, okay, like I'm really sorry, my intention wasn't that. I
Yeah.
rem I remember when I was traveling in Africa, I was in Zimbabwe visiting a friend, and it was the time of apartheid, and I met all these activists um, uh, who were in a pub in Harare, all from South Africa, and I remember being so viscerally shocked. Like yeah, 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 on the streets, free South Africa and all that. But I was viscerally shocked when I realized that the reason why these people were in this pub with me was because they were black and no other reason. Else they would be home on their own land. And like that flicked something in me um, profoundly. And it's always really hard to explain what it was. And I continued to try and understand that and work with it. And, because they were fighting in a real way for their freedom and their liberation. And
Yeah.
here I was, a little yeah, 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 feminist, blah, blah, little white girl. That's what I felt,
Yeah.
taken on the world.
Yeah.
And it was a real slap in the face. Not from them. They were generous, they were kind,
Yeah.
they were
Oh,
gorgeous. I learned so much, but internally
yeah.
it
From
was
inside.
it was this like, what the fuck you doing, gal? You
Yeah.
know, what is this?
Yeah.
And that's really been a thread that's continued to, I don't know.
I think that happens to us all. I think that would be our, the wisdom of our God soul saying, "Hey, listen to this." And I think, I've observed a lot of people not pay attention, because
Mm,
we have choices in those moments. We have choices to be curious and concerned and willing and perceptive, or we go, or we shut down, and
mm,
or we become arrogant, and we act as if we know the full picture or something, right? And
mm,
I think I see this all the time. Something that I'm noticing as I'm getting older is I have more room for extra nuance and complexity all the time. And I'm willing to sit with people whose views frustrate and annoy me. And I'm
mm,
willing to read uh, articles and essays and things and listen to people. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, but it's a practice where I go and like listen to bigotry or what I
mm,
perceive as bigotry, just so I can like understand what's happening. And
mm,
then there's just the complexity of like people colliding with different kind of traumas and like whatever, right? And so I'm so curious as to how like you're someone who I know who has over the years um blossomed, unfolded, realized you're also, you're also non-binary, or you're also very they them,
mm,
as well as a multiplicity of other things. And again, you were surfing the second wave of feminism and doing all of these things that were essential at the time for maybe you, or maybe white women, or maybe cis women, or who knows? Like, who knows? But
mm,
you're also someone who has kept growing a lot and
mm,
never like I perceive you, and again, you might be like, really, what the fuck, as never ossifying, and so,
mm,
so many times we have the choice to ossify or the
mm.
choice to be curious.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really important. And and part of the reason that I haven't ossified, as you say, though sometimes I do, my knees feel like they've ossified, is
Joy.
that I because of people like you, like for people like you, Theo, and coming back into reclaiming on my second Saturn return, you know, I met all these people who were there doing stuff that I thought had disappeared in the hedges,
Mm,
because I'd been living a different world in a different life. I'd been in the mund ordinary, I don't know what
mm,
world,
mm,
patriarchal capitalist
mm,
world. I was trying to make myself fit and I
mm,
couldn't.
mm.
When I was a young person, there was no term non-binary.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought I was a lesbian. I wasn't a lesbian, but I tried to be,
Mm, mm,
and I never liked
mm.
the rules, the regulations, the controls of things that were put on me in any context.
Yeah,
I really hate being put on, you
yeah.
know, and I was so excited when I found that there was this thing called non-binary, and it was like, wow, you know, I think is that, when you have this, you know, euphoria,
Yeah,
gender
euphoria.
euphoria,
Yeah.
like it was like,
Yeah.
woohoo. And I, contacted one of my oldest friends and said, and they went, yeah, I came out to my kids. I think I'm probably non-binary. And they go, yeah. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's not something also I hold tightly.
Hmm.
If you like, I hold it
I,
loosely. So,
yeah, I mean, non-binary is really fun to hold loosely because it to me is this I'm the same because to me it's not about when I say that I'm saying a few things. I'm saying all your ideas over culture of what masculine is, of what feminine is, are rubbish. But also, I'm aware of these essences of what is maleness and what is femaleness that also I'm not interested in.
yeah,
I
yeah.
definitely have always, as a queer young person, felt so much more at home in the femme, in the feminine. And when I say that though, I don't just mean what people think, soft or curvy or beautiful or pretty. I mean also Queen of Swords. I mean specific. I mean rigorous. That's what I think.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I think all of it. I think we're allowed to have all of it. And I can see different indigenous cultures also tussling with it. Like I was recently in Aotearoa where they have strong ideas in Maori culture of uh, uh, being I can't remember their words, maybe tane and wahine, but like female and male and how those energies move through people. But they also have words for a billion other forms of that, and so as most First Nations cultures do. But that has been challenged through colonization and white supremacy
Mm,
and churchianity. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, for me, non-binariness, when I discovered that, I always knew that I was that way. I have journal entries from being a little kid where I'd say,
Mm,
I'm not a man or a woman. But
mm,
yeah,
mm,
so I love when there's like a word that just signals something different, something else. And
mm, mm,
and
mm.
that's also like I want to kind of bring you to the word witch,
Weird.
which you have a deep relationship with.
I have a very deep relationship with goodness. What is a witch?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, how are you
I
a witch? What's your
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know. Like I've always been a witch ever since I was
Mhm.
very young,
Yeah,
and I declared myself a witch when I was about 14.
yeah.
Had no idea. Didn't know any other witches, but that sounded like a really fabulous thing. I used to go to dress up parties as a witch,
Mhm,
People
mhm.
thought I was a dress up, but I was real. This was
Yeah,
the only time for me to actually
yeah,
wear, to be. But it's a journey, Sometimes I wear it really strongly as a political statement, for all the people persecuted in all different countries. And then I have to be really careful. I have a huge family in Africa. If I call myself a witch, like, ooh,
yes,
this can alienate me from them completely. It's a
yes,
different story,
yes,
so you can walk, so and but I'm really enjoying at this point in my life, in this time, at this age, in this town, I can be a witch comfortably, which
yeah,
is very bizarre.
yeah.
But People know that I'm a witch and that. And for me, it's about just connected to the land.
Yeah.
And I seem to have a few tricks up my sleeve where I can move things and
Yes.
a few skills,
Yes.
a few bits of insight,
Yeah.
you know. But I think one of the things about being a witch is to be true to yourself.
Hmm.
Like to work the magic, you have to be really true to yourself.
Hmm.
This is what I've discovered. If I'm not true to myself, really honestly, internally, then nothing works.
Mm.
There's stumbling. I mean, it's so it's such a strange place, to be in the world. And even just doing this, talking about it and having the stuff in the book and all, it's quite confronting,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
because I'm more private about a lot of this stuff, but
Yeah.
it's sort of like I also think it's important. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's out there.
I know it's too
Pe-
late.
People are going to be reading it. Your children.
Oh yeah, they know.
Yeah.
They're cool.
Yeah. But sometimes,
Yeah.
when we write something down, we see people we know really well in a different way.
Hmm.
Uh,
Mm.
Something you just said reminded me, and I want to round this up for time reasons, but again, could go on for ages. But there's a witch, Sicilian strega, Laurie Bruno, who's, I don't know, maybe she's in her 70s now. She's very well known in the East Coast of the US, and she says that witch means wisdom, integrity, truth, courage, honor. And
Oh,
I love
yeah.
it. And I when I heard you say really it's about being truthful to yourself, I remembered her and I remembered how
Yeah.
she literally moves through the world covered, like she's this long, I think it's dyed now, dyed black hair. She's like moves through the world covered in rings and necklaces that are pulling her to the ground, and she's this old Sicilian lady. Um, and everyone in Salem knows, like, and she's just who she is. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people go
Yeah.
to her
Yeah.
for magic and wisdom, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. 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 I've got a little poster that I cut out of an anarchist newspaper in the 1970s up on my uh wall, which the Women's International Terrorist Conspiracy
Let's
from
see, from
Hell,
hell. Yes, I love them. Yeah.
you know? And that's the witch lives and laughs in all of us. She's a free part of all of us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I have it framed, old newspaper. You may have
Yeah,
seen it. It's
yeah,
been in my house forever
yeah,
because that's what I think. Even though I don't have the long hair and all the jewelry and the flowing dresses or the
yeah,
whatever, I do internally. There's
yeah,
a part of me that, and
yeah,
I've tried it.
yeah,
I didn't. People may have seen me like that, but
yeah.
I've not. It doesn't. This is much happier.
Yeah. Totally. Well, thank you so much for writing this essay. It's so brilliant. I wept many times reading it, and I got to read it a lot
Yeah.
because, yeah, like, being an editor is always a really interesting, strange moment in one's life, especially when you're trying to edit words or a structure or an essay of people you know really well, who know their lives really well, and you're just trying to help create, I don't know what editors do, distill, clarify, narrative, whatever. It's like such an interesting and bizarre place to be in, but
Yeah.
really I felt like so intrigued and enchanted by the way you were writing your story the whole time, and just I just want more. I've said this to you multiple times. I just want you to write more,
Yeah.
um, so that we can read more about your insights and your fun and weirdness, and the life you've lived and what you've come to understand and what you will continue to understand in your life.
Yeah. Well, I'm not done yet, and I feel
Exactly.
like I know nothing. So
Yeah.
thank you, and thank you to Jane so much for asking me to challenge me to write this piece. And I really hope that Pearl Pentacle does really fabulously. It's a really powerful tool and a really powerful book. I
Yeah.
can feel it in the covers. I just got mine. I haven't read it all. I've flipped through it. Yeah.
Thank you, lovely one.
Thank
Thanks
you.
everyone for
Yeah.
listening and engaging.
Yeah. Good luck, everybody. Bye.